Hi, I am here to discuss something with you that we would all like to understand. Something pretty difficult. Something that all of you are trying to understand right now. So let's start with understanding suicide. Is understanding suicide even possible? Let me start by saying when our minds do not suffer from mental illness, we are thinking mostly rational thoughts. Yeah, I said mostly. The rational mind tells us the difference between right and wrong, and it lets us know that there are brighter days ahead during every struggle. A rational mind always brings us back to what is real versus irrational minds think that thoughts are even real even when they are irrational. Right? Confusing? Yeah, it's very, very confusing. I want you to think about something. I want you to think about how you might act if you dropped your phone in the toilet. Come on, I have teenagers. Think about it. If you simply drop your phone in the toilet, or let's even go another route. Think about when you stub your toe on something. Automatically you become irrational. You start yelling and crying and cussing and the phone in the toilet. Man, it's the end of the world. What are we going to do? I just dropped my phone in the toilet. Everything is at the end of the world in that split second. You don't even think beyond anything but that moment. But then we realize our toe's okay. And maybe we can get a new phone, and the world, see, it stays in place. It stays within its place. See, these things that happen to us are just things. Yet we immediately go to the irrational part of our mind when things get bad. Immediately. As soon as something bad happens, it's irrational thoughts. How many of you have ever had a parent flip out because they can't find you or don't know where you are? Maybe you were late for curfew, or maybe you were just lost. This can really flip a parent out. Parents lose their minds. Your parent's mind automatically goes to the worst. They immediately become irrational, and sometimes they stay irrational even after you're found. Where did you go? Where were you at? What's going on? They stay that way. What I want you to understand is that mental illness is within all of us in small doses. Every one of us. We all suffer at times when our minds try to redirect us to the irrational thoughts. However, ask yourself this after you were so irrational. Just when something like that happens, ask yourself this. Why do you become so irrational? Why do you do those things in that split second? The answer is usually, I have no idea why I did that. I have no idea why I acted like that. That's because there is no answer for an irrational action. We can know the consequences of a bad behavior, but we still choose irrational over rational. Why in the world would a parent start calling all of your friends because you were 20 minutes late getting home? We don't know. I don't know. I've done it. We don't know. That's the thing. Nobody gets an irrational mind, but we can all be irrational. We can't explain why we do stupid things sometimes. All we can do is try the best not to react the same way again. If you suffer from mental illness, irrational thoughts can stay with you on a permanent basis and make you feel a bit irrational most of the time. Mental illness makes it difficult to rationalize thoughts because their mind can stay in an irrational mindset at times. This can be really painful. In fact, for some, it can be extremely painful. Most of us know that pain can be consistent when we're hurt. But See, we can be okay with that sometimes because in our minds we know it's going to go away. Sooner or later that pain's going to disappear. But what if something never went away? What if a pain never went away? What if you thought that the way that you felt during that irrational moment was going to be consistent all day, every day? What would you think? How would you feel if you knew that that was never going to go away? That thought was never going to disappear. It's almost impossible, unless you have felt that, to understand it. This is what all of us have to understand. See, the world teaches us that we all have to have an answer for everything, but that's impossible. Not long ago, flight MH360 went missing. As soon as this happened, it was nationally televised, and all of the rumors and the ideas started going out into the public like crazy. Were the pilots in on it? Yeah, they were. No, they weren't. Maybe it was hijacked. Maybe they were trying to land due to problems. Maybe they were asleep due to depressurization. All of these things were being spilled out into the public without really ever knowing what the truth might be. Many people were glued to their TV trying to figure out what the latest was with this plane. The latest what? The latest rumor? The latest thought? These thoughts, see, they sure weren't helping the family members. We had to make sense of this, and we had to quick. We had to know what happened because our rational minds can't wrap ourselves around such an irrational thing happening like a plane disappearing. But it did. And there was nothing that anybody could do about it. Mental illness is so hard for rational people to understand. It's invisible to the human eye, and therefore it's crazy. However, when you think about it, we all suffer from mental illness. We may not suffer in large doses, but any time your mind has detoured you off of what is right and you stay there, you have mentally become ill from that you know. Suicide comes when the irrational mind has become to only know the pain and the hurt and can no longer see joy. The pain hurts so bad sometimes that you might not even want to get out of bed or take a shower. You become disinterested in things around you. Teenagers, they can be the exception with long-term struggles. Depression can come in big waves in a short period of time because you all have puberty, parents, relationships, peer pressure. All of these things combined can create irrational thoughts. What you need to know is that a rational mind can never understand an irrational one, no matter how hard you try. This is why you just can't tell someone to stop drinking, because your rational mind makes no sense to them. Help, you see, help's a big word that we're missing. If we're cut open, we are rushed to the emergency room to get stitches. If we are diagnosed with heart problems, we are rushed in to see what's wrong. If we are diagnosed with cancer, the school and the community, they rally to our needs. But when we can't stop thinking irrationally, we close up. We don't talk, and people don't get it. They say, we need to talk about it. Oh, sure you do, oh rational one. You have no idea, says the irrational person. And the battle, see, it just keeps on going. Rational people go to the doctor, not irrational ones. Rational people think that they have to get better. Irrational don't see any thought of getting better. Stop trying to make irrational people rational by rationalization. It won't work. Simply be there for others and let them know that none of us are perfect. Quit trying to judge those around you and just let them be themselves. So, if you are one of those people that are thinking, hey, how do I help somebody that's going through these things? Here are some of the things that you can do. 1, you can create awareness. 2, rational people talk about it, not irrational ones. 3, love people for who they are. Don't judge. 4, don't be afraid to ask for help for a friend. 5, realize that in some instances we are all mentally ill. If you try to understand it, if you try and understand the suicide, you're going to become irrational yourself. Nobody is to blame for suicide. People are bullies. They're hateful. They're hurtful. They can cause a lot of pain, but let's face it, bad people are not going anywhere. If all we do is blame people and situations for suicide, then the illness wins. Know this and get this. This does not mean that people should be bad or hateful to others. Because if you are, it can topple an already very bad situation. The only way that we can ever beat this is together. Suicide is an illness, not who you are. It can only be defeated as that. People say don't talk about it, but we talk about everything else. When my husband died, I had more people walk up to me than ever before telling me, hey, I suffer from mental illness. I know what that's like. Why? At that time, I had no clue where people were coming from. They were coming up to me, telling me their life stories and how they had been through this and had been through that. And then I took a step back and I realized something. I just became visible to them. They couldn't see me before. I couldn't see them before. But now we understood each other's struggle. To be honest, I wasn't sure that I even understood. It took me 3 years to begin to understand what their struggles really were. And yet, I learned the most when I began to stop trying to understand anybody and just simply love people and be there for them.